Welcome to Bad at Goodbyes. Each week on our show, we spotlight species from the IUCN Critically Endangered Red List. These are plants and animals with decreasing populations, nearing the edges of extinction. And so we'll share species research, information, and conservation proposals. And then we'll spend the end of the show opening a space for contemplation and awe. We'll perform a soundscape of gentleness, of reflection, of delight, and also maybe of grieving. Without conservation activity and significant societal shift, many of these species may not survive the 21st century. So perhaps we might acknowledge their journey with a moment of our attention, a recognition of our kinship, and with a commitment to personal and systemic change. Thank you for listening. On today's show, we consider the Royal Cinclodes. The Royal Cinclodes is a critically endangered avian native to western South America in the Andes Mountains of Peru and Bolivia. The Royal Cinclodes is a medium-sized bird, roughly 8 inches in length, weighing around 2 ounces. 2 ounces is pretty light. It's like the weight of a tennis ball or a deck of cards, or a slice of hearty bread. Avian species adapted for flight tend to be lightweight. This is simplified, but we can think of avian flight as a balancing of caloric intake, so that's, eating, which fuels flight muscles that produce enough kinetic energy, so that's flapping the wings, to counteract the downward force of gravity. So this is called lift. A heavier object experiences stronger gravitational pull, hence requiring more energy to produce lift, needing stronger muscles and more food. And so many elements of avian physiology are instead adapted to be lightweight. They have hollow bones filled with air sacs. Feathers are made of keratin, like our hair and nails, so they are strong, but also light. Birds don't have some of the heavier internal organs that we might find in mammals, such as a urinary bladder. Instead, they excrete uric acid, which, as the unlucky among us know, is a semi-solid waste product. And so they're not weighted down by liquid waste storage. And lastly, while the birds have powerful flight muscles, their overall muscle mass is relatively low compared to their body size. So light-weighted, needing less energy to produce lift. Okay, so back to our specific avian for today. The Royal Cinclodes is a medium-sized, lightweight bird with predominantly brown plumage. The wings have a bit of a reddish hue, edged with black at the base of the flight feathers. They have a white supercilium, so this is a stripe of feathers that runs from the beak to the nape of the neck, a kind of light-colored eyebrow. It has whitish cheeks, a creamy tan breast that fades back to brown at the belly. Their legs and feet are dark gray, and their clawed toes have an anisodactyl formation, so that's 3 toes in front, 1 in the back. Their eyes are dark brown. Their bill is black, roughly 1 inch long, and is decurved, meaning it points downward. This is an adaptation that serves their mainly insectivorous diet. Insectivorous, as you likely guessed, means eats insects. The Royal Cinclodes has been observed feeding on butterfly larvae, scarab beetles, as well as other invertebrates like spiders, earthworms, and leeches. Their decurved bill is used for probing into cracks in rocks, into patches of moss and leaf litter, into decaying wood, and into the soft earth in like the boggy bits of their habitat. The Royal Cinclodes is considered a terrestrial bird, spending most of its time on the ground. While it may occasionally perch on low branches or outcrops, its day-to-day is primarily lived on the forest floor, foraging for food, preening and bathing, socializing, and defending their territory. The Royal Cinclodes' social structure is centered around monogamous pairs and small family groups. So pairs generally maintain close proximity to one another and their offspring, ranging a small territory of about 8 acres. So that's like 4 soccer fields, 3 to 4 city blocks, and this includes their nesting site and their foraging grounds. Royal Cinclodes are territorial, defending their chosen home range from intrusion by other Royal Cinclodes and by closely related species that might compete for similar resources. Visual displays such as wing flicking and tail fanning may be used to assert dominance. And the Royal Cinclodes are powerful vocalizers. Their light chirps can escalate into a sharp, harsh trill. Let's have a listen to 2 examples. These are field recordings by Andrew Spencer and Joseph Tobias and Natalie Sutton. The Royal Cinclodes call is also used for attracting mates. As mentioned, the Royal Cinclodes form breeding pairs, and observations suggest that these may be enduring bonds lasting for multiple breeding seasons. So once a pair bond forms, both collaborate on nest building. Royal Cinclodes are tunnel nesters, nesting in cavities excavated in banks, in cracks in cliff sides, and in repurposed rodent burrows. The nest itself is a simple cupped structure made of twigs, moss, and grasses. Pairs begin establishing territories and engaging in courtship behaviors as early as September, nesting and breeding in November, December, January. And then around the top of the year, the female will lay a clutch of usually 2 eggs, which are incubated by both parents for about 2 weeks. Care is biparental throughout. So both parents take turns incubating the eggs, and once the chicks hatch, they work together to feed and protect their young. The chicks remain in the nest for another 2 to 3 weeks before fledging, that means leaving the nest, and then after which they continue to receive this biparental care, learning essential foraging and survival skills for several months. And then eventually the young disperse to establish their own territories. The Royal Cinclodes is native to southeastern Peru and western Bolivia, to the polylepis forests in the Andes Mountains. These polylepis woodlands, so called as they are dominated by polylepis trees, occupy an elevational band 2 to 3 miles above sea level. So this is the highest elevation at which trees can grow in the Andes. The polylepis trees often rooting on steep slopes in these cloud-soaked valleys. Polylepis trees are gnarled and twisted evergreens with reddish papery bark and dense foliage that canopies a rich understory of moss, fern, and damp soil, an ideal habitat for the invertebrate on which the Royal Cinclodes feeds. This is a lush and humid specialized ecosystem, fog-covered, severe, mysterious, a fairy tale at the edge of the atmosphere. These polylepis woodlands see wide temperature fluctuations between day and night and between seasons. So summer temperatures can reach into the 60s during the day, but plummet below freezing at night. And winter temperatures are consistently cooler, dropping below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Annual rainfall ranges between 20 and 40 inches, with a distinct summer rainy season occurring from November to March. The Royal Cinclodes shares its high-altitude home with Andean fox, lichen, fern, speckled bear, giant conebill, white-bellied frog, ash-breasted tit tyrant, orchid, ureta, many species of polylepis trees, including the quinoa, daisy tree, queen of the Andes, stripe-headed and pippa, mountain vicacia, groundsel, and many, many more. In the dream, here in New York, in the streets or on the walk by the river, when I sing, I dream it drifts upward. My song, a light on the wind, ever rising and rising. Lifting through the skyscraper canyons, the LaGuardia flight paths past GPS satellites, and I think perhaps I sing to the heavens to forewarn my arrival. Old moon, I say, I am in no hurry, but I am on my way. And in the dream, I wonder of the Cinclodes song, offered from the top floor, from the gnarled penthouse of this world. A song by a vocalist who can themselves fly. And so I suspect their song tumbles downward. A music with mass, gravity-tugged notes avalanching down the mountainside. Hello, grasslands, they sing. Make up a moss bed. Make it soft. I'll be far from home. In the dream. Threats to the Royal Cinclode population stem primarily from anthropogenic activities, so it's human-caused activities. Their polylepis woodland habitat is being cleared and fragmented by agricultural expansion, livestock grazing, and firewood collection. The deforestation of these woodlands for resources, cropland, pasture, removes nesting sites, foraging grounds. So it's a habitat loss and degradation that leads to population decline. Overgrazing by human-introduced domestic livestock further exacerbates this habitat degradation. So the animals trample and consume understory vegetation, reducing the availability of food and shelter for the Cinclodes and disrupting the ecosystem balance in general. Fire is an increasing threat. Unchecked agricultural burning has resulted in damaging wildfires, which has a long-term impact as polylepis trees are slow growing. So these are not fire-adapted woodlands that naturally regenerate after fire. Human-induced climate change poses an additional long-term threat to the Royal Cinclodes and its habitat. Rising temperatures and altered precipitation patterns will affect the availability of water and food resources and increase the frequency and severity of these wildfires, further fragmenting and degrading the polylepis woodlands that the Royal Cinclodes relies on. In both Peru and Bolivia, the Royal Cinclodes is legally protected, and swaths of its habitat in both countries are on protected land in national parks and special reserves. Over the last 20 years, 8 community-based private conservation areas have been created, and over 1 million trees have been planted in habitat restoration efforts. Nevertheless, the Royal Cinclodes has been considered critically endangered on the IUCN Red List since 1994, and their population is currently in decline. Our most recent counts estimate that less than 250 Royal Cinclodes remain in the wild. Information for today's show about the Royal Cinclodes was compiled from Biodiversity and Conservation, Volume 17, Bird Conservation International, Volume 3, Issue 1, BirdLife International, Birds of the World from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, Caatinga, Volume 43, from the IUCN, from Mountain Research and Development, Volume 25, Number 3, from the Proceedings of the Royal Society B, from Ornithologia Neotropica, Volume 25, Issue 4, sound recordings by Andrew Spencer and Joseph Tobias and Natalie Seton from Xenocanto, and from Wikipedia. And so in a moment, I would like to perform some music. This music is not intended to extract meaning from or put meaning upon the Royal Cinclodes. Instead, I want this music to express my human awe and grief, and be a moment to consider my relationship to other life, particularly as some of that life nears extinction. So I will pause in this place of sound and contemplation, and I warmly invite you to join me. I honor the life force of the Royal Cinclodes. I will commit its human name to my record. I am grateful to have shared time on our planet with this being, and I lament the ways in which I and my species have harmed and diminished this species. I grieve. So in the name of the Royal Cinclodes, I pledge to reduce my consumption, my carbon footprint, and my wastefulness. I pledge to acknowledge and attempt to address the costs of my actions and my inactions. And I pledge to resist the harm of any plant and animal kin or their habitat by individuals, corporations, and governments. I pledge my song to the witness and memory of all life, to a broad celebration of biodiversity, and to the total liberation of all beings. This has been Bad at Goodbyes. Thank you for listening. Until next time, let's take care of each other and all of our kin.